Hi everyone, in this video I'm just going to take a quick look at how you get all the marks in some of the higher tier only calculation questions. They're not actually harder than foundation tier questions, you've just got to do more steps to complete them. So there's an example on the screen. An electric kettle was switched on. The graph below shows how the temperature of the water inside the kettle changed, and we're given a graph. The energy transferred to the water in 100 seconds was 155,000 joules. Specific capacity of water is 4,200. Determine the mass of water in the kettle. Use the graph above, give your answer to two significant figures. We are told to use the graph, so I'm thinking I'm going to need to get some numbers off it. But let's look at what we've got. So if I just highlight what we've got, we're given an energy. There's the energy we're given. We're given a time. We're given specific heat capacity. We're asked for mass. So when I go to the equation sheet, I'm looking for an equation that links energy, specific heat capacity, mass, maybe time. But time's on the graph and that could actually give me a temperature actually. So I'm just looking for an equation that maybe links some or all of those things. So if I switch to the equation sheet, and if I just have a look, kinetic energy, right, this equation's got most of the things I was given. It's got an energy. We were asked for mass. We were given specific heat capacity, temperature change, and the graph did show me temperature. So I'm drawn to this equation. So I'm going to write the letter version of it on my answer sheet to help me. So if I go back, so I'm going to write it exactly as it was on the equation sheet. So I had a little triangle, E equals M for mass, C for specific heat capacity, another little triangle, and then that symbol. Now, even though I don't necessarily know what the triangles mean, or that symbol might be new to me, the equation sheet did tell me in words what they mean. And you can have the sheet side by side on your desk so you can look at them both at the same time. The triangle actually just means change in, but that is written on the sheet, so you would know that's change in energy. But we're given energy, so I'm going to write that in. 155,000 equals. Now I'm asked for mass. I don't know it yet, so I'm going to leave it as M. I've got specific heat capacity, so I can put that in, 4,200. And then going back to the equation sheet, that was temperature change. Now, I've not got that, but I was told to use the graph. And I'm told this is for 100 seconds. So if I just scroll up to the graph, I can find the temperature change over 100 seconds. At 100 seconds, if I go across on the graph, well, it ends up at 100 degrees C. But it started off at 22. So the change from 22 to 100 is 78. But I'll check that on my calculator in a second. The change is 100 take away 22. So I'm going to make this a little bit easier for me. I mean, I've got some numbers here. I can actually do this part of the calculation in one go. So I'll do 100 take away 22. I was right, it's 78. And I'm going to times it by the 4,200. So I'm just doing this bit of the equation. And I get, just for this bit, 327,600. And it's M times that, and that still equals, I've not done anything with the 155,000 yet. But now I've done that little section of it on its own, it's a much more similar equation. I'm no longer dealing with 4 numbers and a letter. I'm now dealing with 2 numbers and a letter. Now I need M on its own. I need to make M the subject. M is at the moment timesed by 327,600. So to get rid of it, I'm going to divide by that. So it's going to become 155,000 divide by that big number, and that equals M. I type that into my calculator. Let me actually do that. And I get 0.4731, and the calculator goes on, but I'll just write 0.4731. Now it does say give your answer to two significant figures. So 0 doesn't count, it's not a significant figure if it's at the start. So my two significant figures are going to be the 4 and the 7. I don't need to round up because the number after it is 3. So I'm just going to put 0.47. Now that's 5 marks. I get 1 mark for finding the temperature change from the graph. I get 1 mark for putting all the numbers into the equation. I get another mark for changing the subject of the equation. I get another mark for working out the answer. And I get another mark for putting it to two significant figures. Now, let's say I made a mistake. Let's say I got the temperature change wrong. I could still get all the other marks. So you've got to show you're working out as you go through. So it's nothing in that was any trickier than the questions I did in the other video. But I just had to do more to get things from a graph. I had to do significant figures. I had to rearrange as well, all in one question. But it's the same skills. So I'll do one more. So the coffee machine, so different question. The coffee machine heats water from 20 to 90. The power output of the coffee machine is 2.53 kilowatts. The specific heat capacity of water is 4,200. Calculate the mass. So similar question to last time. So I'm asked to calculate mass. So I got to have a question with mass in it. I'm given a time. I'm given a specific heat capacity. I'm given a power. And I'm given two temperatures. Now, I know from experience there is only one question with specific heat capacity in it. And we've just used that equation, so I'm not going to look it up again. I know if I look at the equation sheet, I'll find this equation. And I'm asked for mass, so I'm going to need this equation. I've got a temperature change. Temperature change is 70, 20 to 90. I've got a specific heat capacity. I'm asked for mass, but I've not got an energy. I've got a power and a time, not an energy. I need to find energy before I can use this equation. So I now need an equation that's going to use power and time to find energy. So if I look at the equation sheet again, and if I glance down, I will find an equation that says, let me find the equation sheet. It says, there we go, energy transferred equals power times time. So if I do power times time, I'll get the energy. So if I go back, I've now got separately energy equals power times time. So that's what I'm going to do. Now the power is 2.53 kilowatts. Kilo means 1,000. So it's 2.53 thousand watts. So I'm going to times that number by 1,000 before I put it into my equation. So instead of 2.53, I'm going to write 2530. I've times it by 1,000 to do that. You can use your calculator to help you do that if you need to. And I'm going to times it by time, which is 14. So on my calculator, 2530 times 14 is 35420. That is my energy. That's the energy I'm going to put back into this equation. So now I can do this equation. Now I've got the energy. 35420 equals. I've not got mass yet. I'm trying to calculate it, so I'll leave it as M. Times by specific heat capacity times by temperature change. If you look at the equation sheet, triangle means change. So 20 to 90, the change is 70. Now, to make it a little bit easy for myself to rearrange, I'm going to do 4,200 times by 70 first. So it becomes M times 294,000. And I've not touched that number yet, so I'll put that back in. But by doing that little bit first, I've turned what was 3 numbers and a letter into 2 numbers and a letter, which is easier to change the subject. So M is currently times by that number. So I'm going to divide by that to get M on its own. So M is going to become 35420 divided by 294,000. That's going to get me mass. I type all that into my calculator and I get 0.12048. And the calculator keeps going. But I don't need that many numbers. I mean, the question doesn't tell me how many significant figures. I'm just going to go for 2, 0.12. So again, I got marks for putting numbers into this equation, for getting an answer to this equation. I then get marks for putting the numbers into that equation, for rearranging that equation, and then for the answer. So I'm having to use 2 separate equations, but every bit I do, I'm getting more marks along the way. So that's a classic higher tier paper question. So I hope that video helped.